Hey everyone, we are back with more spoilers from Double Masters. It's Tuesday, a little past noon Eastern, and the spoilers have been coming out. Let me know if you guys want me to wait until the end of the day to get all of the spoilers from a particular day together, or if you like having multiple videos in a day. We'll make another one later on if we get something super exciting. Otherwise, we'll just lump it in with tomorrow's spoilers. But let's get started with Lux Cannon, a card that kind of sneakily has crept up in value since it's printing in Scars of Mirrodin thanks to Commander players. And there's going to be a lot of cards like this, which are going to take, most likely, very large hits to their value. This was a mythic, I believe, in Scars, and a reprinting as a rare and a set with 2 rares per pack, likely going to drop the price on this one quite a bit, as its primary use really is just mostly casual Commander decks. Cyclonic Rift is a gargantuan printing. This card is worth a ton right now. I think they're pushing $50. They're like literally like $30, $40. And this full art version is going to be a collector item for sure. And it's going to be very interesting to see how these showcase cards end up being accepted by the market. But I mean, it is definitely preferable to the original art. It is stunning, and I expect everybody's going to be very impressed. The fact that this is a rare is going to be interesting to see how the price reacts. Cyclonic Rift is a card that sees play in pretty much every blue Commander deck at this point. It's just so powerful and pairs well with so many other effects. Time Twister, I'm looking at you. Heat Shimmer, a card mostly, again, Commander play. Create a token that's a copy of target creature, except it has haste, and at the beginning of the end step, exile this permanent. It can create some shenanigans, and there's going to be a lot of low value rares as well. I mean, there are rares that are straight bulk being reprinted here, and it's always an interesting decision. I think the question becomes, what type of value do they add to the limited format? And if they're great in limited, if they end up being fun, then fantastic. I'm just kind of skeptical on this one. I don't really see how it fits in at all, but I guess we'll see. I don't generally like it when people open cards in a pack and feel awful about it. It's fine to have cards that are traps, that are complicated, that force people to learn how to assess the game, but when things are just generally kind of suboptimal, taking up the rare slot, I'm much less enthusiastic about it. Arkham Dagson, a really unfriendly commander. He can tutor up a variety of lock pieces, and probably the earliest commander that I saw being really, really brutal. I mean, Zur could do some cool stuff, but it was generally easily thwarted by just, some spot removal, whereas Arkham Dagson decks tended to be way more permission heavy, able to protect the Arkham and then tutor up a lock piece to like literally just lock everyone out of the game. And it's not generally how people like to play Commander, but there is a certain type of griefer out there that loves just making sure that the entire table doesn't have very much to do other than wait for death. Bosch Iron Golem, another bulk rare here. I mean, it's probably at most 50 cents for this guy, so that will not be very exciting to open as far as value, but I mean, it's a card that can be quite good in limited. So, if we get a Mere Enforcer reprint, being able to sacrifice and do 7 damage to something for 4 mana is a huge value. 8 mana up front is a lot to ask, but he does have trample, and this card's potentially reasonable and limited if you've got a little bit of acceleration, which artifact decks, that's often what the artifacts in those decks are. Trash for Treasure downshifted to an uncommon, so hopefully you were not speccing on this card. As an additional cost to cast it, you sack an artifact and you get a Goblin Welder activation, essentially with haste. Sometimes all you need is the 1 activation for a card like Mindslaver. This one is going to 0. I'm sure there are some people that specced on this card as something that, someday maybe it'll be worth a couple of bucks, but being printed at uncommon here is the end of that train. Hopefully no one was on it. Kragenwick Cremator, another bulk rare. This one's not super exciting, and that's going to be the theme for many of these lower value reprints. we won't know until we actually get to play. Maybe when we get enough cards, we can create an informed opinion on the potential for how these cards will play in the limited format. But in general, you don't really know until you start playing and really getting reps in. I mean, you can kind of guess and forecast based off of experience from playing dozens and dozens of different Magic sets. But at the end of the day, there are often things that'll surprise you about limited formats, subtle things that are not obvious on the surface, that once you actually start drafting it or playing sealed, then you end up kind of finding that nuance and potentially falling in love with the set. Noble Hierarch. Now, this is a reprint that people are excited about. Again, coming in at rare, and this is, what is it, 40, 50 bucks for this card right now? This card's super hot, and expect after this set comes out, if enough of it's printed, for this to be an excellent time to be picking up Noble Hierarchs. Of course, you're going to be very excited to crack this in packs, as this is a long-term eternal staple, seeing play even as far back as Vintage and Legacy. Voice of Resurgence. This one like hurts my soul. Like, Dragon's Maze has nothing going on for it except for Voice of Resurgence. If they had just not reprinted this, then maybe those booster boxes could not be toilet paper. And instead, they just reprinted it again. It was in Masters 2017. I mean, Voice of Resurgence could be like a $50 card and actually allow like that booster box to have some semblance of value. As it is, I mean, its only use is for chaos drafts. I mean, it's so weak. Really it's probably the biggest failure that we've seen in the last, 20 years in Magic. No, not 20. In the last like 15 years of Magic. It's pretty bad. Dragon's Maze is a complete dumpster fire, and Voice of Resurgence gets another reprint, so that's really going to make it tough for Dragon's Maze to ever financially recover from this. Summoner Sphinx, this one also downshifted to uncommon. That is a card that has seen some play in Commander, returning an artifact to the battlefield, a 5-mana effect, but you can also flicker this guy, creating some very interesting value plays over the long term, kind of assembling contraptions, so to speak. Really most notable for the fact that it has been downshifted. I think it'll be a very good uncommon as well. At 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer, totally fine, and then the ability to get a big artifact back could make that a very, very good draft pick. Austere Command, all sorts of modes there to pick from. You notice the bullet points, there's 4 of them. I don't think I can actually name all 4 modes of that card. It's definitely destroying creatures with 3 or less, or 4 or more. But, yep, I don't know what the other ones are. It's a lot of modes. You're probably going to want that one in English, just like Cryptic Command. And this is a really cool reprint, Sneak Attack. I love this card. Like, Sneak Attack's very fun. I've definitely played a lot of Sneak and Show. Currently, I'm on Omnitel and Eurekatel, I should say. I think the Green Slash is just better right now, thanks to Veil of Summer doing everything that the deck needs. And I think Eureka is a better card in that deck than Sneak Attack, allowing you to go 2 colors. But for blue-red players, people who might like sideboarding that Blood Moon, this is a really cool version. I mean, look at that art, the just beautiful composition. So you have the brighter fire in the front of the picture. That white highlight really draws your eye, and you notice the scene. You've got these orcs, I guess, standing around a fire, eating, relaxing, letting their guard down. Their swords are set to the side, showing that they've kind of let their guard down. And then your eye travels to the back of the card, and you see this giant monster ready to have its sneak attack. Love it. Love the composition. A beautiful use of several different artistic techniques, and beautifully done as well. Really a beautiful piece. And of course, they're bringing back Sneak Attack in a regular version as well. Going with the reprint art, the original art is, it's got its feel. I like the original art. It has a feel that really represents the era it was from. And I think this particular art kind of is more in line with what we've been seeing from Magic for the most part. Though Wizards has done a good job of mixing things up. I will say the art in Magic the Gathering was probably one of the biggest weaknesses a few years ago in terms of a place where a competitor might be able to enter the market and compete with them on a particular axis. Obviously, you're not going to be able to compete on the number of players, the history of the game. The mechanics of the game can be very difficult to compete with just because it's had 25 years of building out mechanics. But art, I think, was probably their one potential Achilles heel, that one missing scale from Smaug's chest, so to speak. And I feel like they've armored it up. They've been doing a really good job for the most part, getting in a lot of different looks and kind of making it so it's not just homogeneous, everything looks the same. If you take a look at World of Warcraft and Blizzard, all of their art looks the same. That's their brand, that's what they're going for. That's not something Magic has to fall into. Magic can be many things to many people, and I think that's a really good thing. And I think it's also a really good thing just in general right now. Things have become very polarized in a lot of ways, with many people kind of pushing that their way of thinking is the only valid way, that you can only, for example, be an ally the precise way that we say. And I think just in general, having people have different opinions about things just is a good thing, period. I think diversity of thought is a tremendous thing, and I love the idea of self-expression at the table through different art and not needing to go to altruists to make it happen. So the fact that Wizards is recognized that people do want to kind of say something about themselves and their personality and their preferences through their Magic card presentation, I think is great that they're actually going ahead now and giving people more options aside from altering their cards in order to do so. So yeah, they're definitely addressing that with these secret layers, with these showcase, the box toppers, all that type of stuff. So good on Wizards for that, I would say. Stonehewer Giant, another rare coming in here. This is a card that has crept up to probably about $10, I'd guess, from Morningtide, I believe. And it's a staple in many commander decks that revolve around equipment. And it's kind of like a giant Stoneforge Mystic. Really good card for limited. So, I mean, this is going to play multiple roles here. It's going to be really good in the limited environment, and it's also going to be something that players are going to be happy to play with, even though it's likely to drop. Of course, I sound like a broken record here. Very likely to drop significantly in value coming in as a rare. Risk the Redeemed is a card that I'm actually a little concerned for. So this was in the mystery boosters, and what we've seen with that set is the market really hasn't figured out precisely what is going on. There's still mystery boosters available, and they've basically risen to, I don't know, $200+ at this point per box. And part of that is the value of the cards inside. You don't want to, as a store, sell a booster box for, say, $150 when you could have opened it and sold the singles for $300. And that is kind of the situation with mystery boosters. I mean, they've got Mana Crypt as a possibility. They've got multiple slots that can really pay off big time. Demonic Tutor. I mean, there's so many. I could go on and on, but what we have seen is a big discrepancy in between the price of the mystery booster cards and other printings. And if Commander has taught us anything over time, is that is not going to be able to be sustained. So when I say Commander, I mean the Commander precons. For a long time, the Commander precon cards were worth way less than their booster equivalents. And over time, many of them have actually flip-flopped now. Now they're actually worth more. But for the most part, unless it's like this year's Commander deck, they tend to eventually equalize. And I don't know where that's going to go with mystery boosters. Maybe the supply on them was small enough that prices are going to tick up more toward the original with the mystery booster, and then the originals come down. But I do expect overall it's very likely to find some type of kind of equilibrium where, if you want a card like, say, Karakas, the original Legends printing, that's some money. But even in Italian Legends, what is that, like $30 maybe? And then you've got the other ones that are in the $20 range. So there's not this huge spread in terms of the different printings once they are reprints. And I think Riss is probably just going to drag this whole value way down. I mean, we haven't adjusted yet for mystery boosters. The Riss from there is like $8. The original is like 20. I would expect this to really flood out this particular card, and I wouldn't be surprised if Riss ends up being, like a $5 card in the short term. That wouldn't be shocking at all. I haven't looked at pre-order pricing yet. That would have been a good thing to do before opening my mouth on the internet. But I would not be surprised at all if this one ends up taking a huge hit, and then because it's such a good card for Commander, over time, maybe it creeps up again. All of this depends on the supply, which Wizards gets to set. So Blade Splicer, inexpensive card that's very good in Limited and very good with any type of flicker effect. It's one of the cheaper things to set up to the point where it's actually seen play in Constructed. I've seen this in Modern, Death and Taxes, for example, with Flicker Wisp being able to flicker this out for extra value, and not quite good enough for Legacy per se, but a powerful card. Just a little bit more mana than you want to be spending in Legacy for the most part. It's competing with cards like Mirror and Crusader and so many others. Pretty much anytime a white creature that costs 3 mana comes out, it's that butterfly meme, Death and Taxes players asking if this is a playable card. And Blade Splicer, I don't expect people to revisit that. I mean, it's been out there. It's been reprinted even. I think we've kind of learned our lesson on it, but you're not going to go terribly wrong sleeving this one up, especially if you're bouncing it back, like I said, with Flicker Wisp. Coming in again at uncommon is Flicker Wisp, and that's totally fine. You don't want this guy as a common, a 3-power, 3-mana flyer. Very, very good in Limited, and getting that extra value off of the ETB or potentially clearing a blocker out of the way makes this very, very good. Of course, in Death and Taxes, the fact that you can use that at instant speed becomes absolutely insane, as you're able to just activate Vial and blow people out of the water. In Exploration, I mean, let's just take a moment to look at the art. Just gorgeous. Beautiful composition. Just a stunning card. I mean, I love the fact that Mark Poole is still part of the game, one of the original Magic artists, and I take a look at this and I see, a craft that has evolved over the years as he has leveled up and increased his skill, and what you could actually use the word masterpiece. Thank goodness for the pause feature on OBS. Just had a customer come in, and I guess I'm done just admiring this art. I'm really psyched to see this move in Magic. I'm very curious how the market's going to interpret these cards. We've kind of got a couple of different things that we might take a look at if we're trying to understand some historical data. One, we've got box toppers we have masterpieces, and then we also have promo versions, like in the packs, the promo packs that they give out for TOs. They have the little Planeswalker foil stamp, and it's going to be really interesting to see how these particular ones play out. I mean, we saw the Japanese War of the Spark is kind of the extreme end of that, where those alt art Planeswalkers, some of them are incredibly valuable, especially the foil versions. And then on the other side of that, you go to the Planeswalker stamped ones, which really aren't that big a deal. If you get a Gilded Goose with a Planeswalker foil logo right now, similar to a pre-release foil, they're pretty much the same as the set foil. So there's a pretty big range. I'm not actually sure the best way to try and analyze this. It's often the right play to not get swept up in the hype, but I think this set should be a lot of fun to draft. And, if you're a backpacker, you probably want to be doing a ton of drafting, moving cards around. Remember, that's how you create value. And when you create value, that's where the profit comes from. So if you are a backpacker, what you want to be doing is opening weekend, get out there, do drafts, do sealed decks, trade with people. Right now is obviously a super tough time for that in much of the country. So you're going to need to, of course, take into consideration the whole pandemic and everything. But, that is my general philosophy on this. And perhaps that has to be on ice for now. Maybe backpacking is just totally untenable right now. If you are a backpacker and, you're able to make this work right now, let me know in the comments how that's going for you, because it seems like it's got to be one of the toughest times, certainly in the history of the game, in terms of making that work. And that brings us back around to Lux Cannon, as I thought. So yeah, that was today's spoilers, and let me know if you want me to be doing multiple videos a day with spoilers, if you want me to just kind of hit them as they come out, and we'll just stay on top of this double masters thing and kind of form our opinion on it as more and more data presents itself. Thanks for watching. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.